Hey guys, Extinct here with extinctmotorsports.com. So today we're introducing our new Defender Mudflap bracket kit for the D2s. The Defender Mudflaps are an iconic part of the Land Rover look. We were always a little jealous that the D2 did not get equally beefy mudflaps. In addition, at this point, almost every D2 has cracked factory mudflaps due to the poor material they used at the factory. On top of that, if you live in a climate where they use salt on the roads, more than likely your brackets are rusted out. Our new kit addresses all of that. Aluminum brackets allow you to fit the beefy Defender mud flaps or the cheapo aftermarket eBay ones. Either way, we've got you covered, whether you're running a Monster on 35s or a Stalker on 255. Okay, in addition to the Defender mud flaps looking better, most of the D2 mud flaps are in this kind of condition. The material is thin, and like everything else on the D2 from those years, Land Rover cheaped out on the plastic. So they've all torn along this line right here. Okay. In addition to that, if your truck spent any time in a place where they use road salt, the bracket's rusted out, as you can see right here. And then, you know, it's just flapping, and this one's torn, of course, as well. Probably torn on the other side too. It's starting to tear over here, you know. And this might be the one decent one on this whole truck. You know, and the bracket's not completely rusted out in the back though. So anyway, that's just another benefit of our aluminum brackets and our, you know, I'll show you a little bit later. I'll measure the thickness, but the Defender mud flaps are so much thicker than these D2 mud flaps. Okay, now let's take a look at the Defender mud flap versus the factory disco one. Now this factory disco one has already started to tear here. It's torn pretty badly. I took this off a truck and you can see where it deforms, you know, where the mounting bracket is. But look at this, we're gonna line up the bolt holes. And so of course the factory Discovery, you know, the trim piece sits right here. And the rest of this is inboard to the body, and this is how much you get outboard of the body. And you could just see the size difference visually, what we're talking about between the Defender mud flap and the factory disco one. You know, it doesn't matter which set of bolt holes I use, because I've put a couple of different sets of bolt holes in the Defender mud flaps. These are where it's mounted on the truck. This came off of the truck with the 35s on it. So I mounted it more outboard because they stick out because they're on spacers. But on a factory disco, you're going to use these two, and then this one's going to be outboard, right? But even so, you get a lot more coverage with the Defender mud flaps. But more importantly, I wanted to show you the difference in thickness. So the factory disco mud flap, if we measure it, it's about 3.3 millimeters thick around most of the perimeter. And right here at the mounting surface, you know, it's a little bit difficult to tell because they've got this relief area, but we're going to give them credit for a little bit more thickness, you know, right here in the relief area. Let's call it 4.12, right? Now, the Defender mud flap, 7 millimeters. So twice as thick as the factory disco one, which is why it doesn't tear. Now I notched this one to fit over the body right there. So that's where it comes outboard the body. So it mounts here and it comes outboard the body right there. And I notched it a little bit for it to tuck up. But generally what we're talking about is a much heavier duty mud flap, much thicker, much more durable, and you get a lot more coverage. So, you know, the side of the truck is not covered with mud. Now, if that's your kind of thing, stay with stock mud flaps if you like torn, broken, small mud flaps. Or maybe think about the factory Defender ones. And we've designed our brackets so they'll work equally well with the OEM Defender flaps. You can see the holes line up. Or they also work with the eBay knockoffs, if that's what you prefer to run. You can see the same thing. You just have to put the holes in the eBay knockoffs. They of course, they don't come with any holes in them. but easy enough. You just drill your holes and the brackets will allow them to mount up. So your choice, you decide which one you want to use, but the brackets work with both. Okay, we're going to start by removing our screws in the rear out of the mud flap from the body trim so we can get the mud flap out. And you can see this mud flap's already torn, so it's kind of garbage. Okay, now we're going to take this trim piece off, not because it needs to be taken off to put the brackets on, but just so you can get a better view of how we're going to mount it to the bracket. With this off, you'll be able to see a little bit better. So this is pretty easy to take off. There's just screws here and here, and I'm going to get to those next, and it just pulls straight down, okay? Okay, now that we've removed our trim piece here and we've unscrewed our mud flap from the trim piece, we just need to remove the mud flap from the bracket here and here with these two bolts. Now this truck had already had the mud flap rivets drilled out because I had already changed the mud flaps because they were broken. You can still see this one's broken as well. But now we're going to put our new brackets on. Now the kit comes with new stainless fasteners, so we don't need these fasteners anymore. And so we're going to put that on now. Now today I'm using the silver brackets just so you can see better what I'm doing. Of course, you either probably will want to paint the brackets if you order the silver ones or order the powder coated ones. The powder coated ones, they really want a premium for the powder coating one. So that's why I offer both. But it's your choice. You can let your wallet decide. So we're going to mount it right here. And we've got slotted bolt holes. We put our bolts in our brackets here. And then we can slide it, we can maneuver it in and out with these slots, and then we'll mount the actual mud flap here, and we'll be able to mount it up and down. Okay, this is relatively straightforward. We just put our screws in our slotted holes, and then we put our nuts on and the screws. Okay, so we've got these button head stainless screws. You put them in from the back side, and that way, if for any reason your tires do rub it, I can't imagine what, maybe you got giant tires or something, but they don't catch on the bolts, right? And then you can just set it into the slots like this, and you just need to put your nuts on, which I've got over here. And that's it. And then once you've got you can just position it at whatever height you prefer and level it out based on your truck. Lots of adjustability here. That's all there is to it. Okay, on the front, you have to start by removing these two screws that hold the outer part of the mud flap on. And you can see, you know, this mud flap's already cracking right here. It's also cracking on the inside edge here. So anyway, we're going to take those 2 screws out first. And that just releases the mud flap, you know, from the trim. Okay, and then we just remove the 3 factory nuts that hold the entire bracket on. Now you see this bracket's rusted out. That's pretty common if it's seen any salt. But we just remove those 3 nuts and the bracket drops down and our new bracket's going to bolt on right there. Now be careful on these nuts. Spray them with a lot of Aerocroil for about 3 days before you take them off. A lot of times they're seized on there and you don't want to strip that stud off, even with the body. We sell some optional stainless sheet metal screws. If that does happen, and you could just screw it into the body, but we want to try to avoid that. Okay, now we can just throw that garbage away. Okay, I've changed the angle a little bit here so you can see a little bit better where the bracket goes and where the bolts go. So these are our 3 factory studs, and what you can see is the bracket fits right over those. And it's pretty tight, so you may have to you know, put it on one, put your nuts on one at first, and then wiggle the bracket to get it to fit on the others. Okay, so once you've got your nuts on your first 2, now you can slide your bracket in and out and figure out where you want to position your mud flap in terms of in or out, right? Now this last one, this last bolt, you can see the bracket doesn't engage if it's slid all the way in. And that's because to get it to engage when it's slid all the way out, the bracket's coming right up against the body panel. So it's just nothing really we could do about that. But 2 nuts is sufficient to hold the bracket on. So we've got them started. Now we just need to put our mud flap in our slotted holes. Okay, same drill on this. Now, we've got the same stainless screws. You just put them through the mud flap, and then you put the nut on from behind. Nothing to it, right? Uses the factory bolt holes on the mud flap. Now those brackets on the factory mud flaps come riveted on, so you're going to need to use a 4-inch angle grinder or maybe a drill to drill out those factory rivets. But we've already done that on these to speed the video up. There it is. And now, I don't have the bracket tight, of course, because you probably want, I've got it on the left, but you probably want to do it on the ground. But you can see your bracket is slotted, and you can slide it in or out and up or down and get your mud flap position just where you want it. Slid all the way in, it's about the width for factory size tires. If you slide it out, now we're talking coverage for 285s. Up and down, That's personal preference. How much coverage, mud coverage do you want? So that's all there is to it. One last thing I'll note, we designed it to fit really tight to the fender flare here. You can see we got plenty of clearance with the tires, but you know, if you wanted a little more clearance, you can either bend the bracket tighter into the trim piece, you know, just bend it a little bit angle. It's aluminum, so it bends easily. Or you can even bend it back if you wanted like this to give yourself a little more coverage. I'm gonna leave that to the user, but they're very flexible and easy to bend. I thought I would take a shot around the truck. 265s, this is what those look like. You can see the profile of the mud flaps versus on this side we've got factory size 255s. You can see how it looks coming down the truck. And of course the 255s, you have a generous amount of clearance between the tire and the mud flap. But if you're going to run those 265s without a lift, you're going to be careful when you fit them. Larger than stock tires, these are 265s. Without a lift, you're probably going to need to tweak the bracket a little bit to get some clearance. There's not much clearance here at full lock. Now, if you've got a lift, it's no problem. Or you're on stock size tires, it's no problem. And this is on the front only. On the back, it's no problem. But what I've done is I've tweaked the leading edge of this down so that it doesn't catch on the tire and bend it in a little bit. So that's probably what you would need to do, and just be aware of it. This is only on the front. Now we're going to go through the top 10 reasons to run the Defender mud flaps instead of stock D2 mud flaps. Number 1, stock flaps are almost all torn at this point. You need to replace them anyway. Number 2, the factory steel brackets rust out. Ours are aluminum. They'll last forever. Number 3, huge Defender coverage keeps mud off the paint, doors, and importantly, steps. Number 4, slotted two-way adjustments allows you to fit anything from stock tires up to 37s with no spacers. Number 5, pre-drilled brackets, 5-minute bolt-on front or rear. Number 6, available with iconic Land Rover logo, bragging rights included. Number 7, works with step bars or rock sliders. No clearance drama. No issue with the front mud flaps interfering with your sliders. Number 8, your choice of finishes. Get the bare aluminum and paint it to your color preference, or upgrade to the factory powder-coated black units. Number 9, takes genuine Land Rover flaps or aftermarket eBay ones. You decide. Number 10, use only fronts, only rears, or both. Your choice. So finally, here's some video of us field testing the mud flaps for durability. Okay, now to show you how to find it on the website. Of course, it's on the home page under featured products. Or you can go into shop under exterior products, and it's there. Or go to shop under vehicle, and you'll find it on the Land Rover Discovery page, and it's there. Or shop all products, and it'll be there because it's a featured product. Once you're on the page, after you get through looking at everything, just scroll down and select the variation that you want, the options rather, whether you want the rear, the front and rear, powder coat or silver, whatever your preference is. And don't forget to do the optional combined shipping with an inline thermostat order. Okay guys, if you have any questions, drop us a line at extinctmotorsports.com or leave your questions in the comments and we'll get to them. Hope to see you guys on the trail soon.